Hi, and welcome to IRLS 560 Class 3, Collection Development Policies. First off, I would like to start by talking about future assignments. Sorry for the snafu last week, and just so you know that there will always be a written explanation of an assignment in each class folder. I will also have any readings, and I will designate them whether they're for further information or whether they're required readings. And all assignments are due by Sunday at noon. And remember, I have office hours Wednesday afternoon from 4 to 5, where I'm available via chat on DL2, by phone, by email. So if you have any questions, let me know. So let's talk a little bit about collection development policies. As we've already talked about the collection development, which is the process of making certain the library meets the needs of keeping its community informed, and to do so in a timely and economical manner requires planning. That's where the collection development policy comes into play. The collection development policy is a written statement of a library's intentions for building its collection. Now, a good policy is used to communicate to staff doing the selection, staff who assist with the management of the collection, the community, and those who provide funding. The literature suggests that there's really no common or uniform standard model. In fact, that there are as many different models as there are selectors and collections. Small libraries with small collections tend to have just an overall policy, while larger institutions may have a much more in-depth policy. Nonetheless, basically these are the 4 areas that they tend to cover. So basically, particular audience that's served, whether it's children's, teens, adults, college students, particular subjects. So basically, if there is a topic or a subject matter that is a strength for the collection, that this is where it's highlighted that it maintains a strength. Particular formats. So this talks about how a library will deal with various formats, whether it be print, e-resources, things of that nature. And then you also have the troublesome aspects, which are gifts, donations, or information, or intellectual freedom. Now, the collection development policy should be useful and should be used. It basically comes in 2 formats. You'll either find the formal, which is the written, or there may also be the informal or unwritten. Now, an effective policy must be followed by staff. And many libraries have unwritten policies that are understood and followed as if they were formal, but never assume that the lack of a written policy means that there is no policy. In fact, some organizations have more unwritten policies than written ones. Often unwritten policies accumulate haphazardly for years and build on each other and may even contradict each other, and be extremely difficult for someone new in the organization to be able to identify and understand what it all means. So if you're new to an organization, it's important that you ask colleagues about those unwritten policies. The policy should provide an intellectual or conceptual framework for rational decision making. The policy or supporting documents should be specific enough to allow consistent application, but also flexible enough to change for situations so that it doesn't become a static document that never gets used or no one ever looks at. The purpose of a collection development policy is to determine and to guide the present and future state of the collection. The policy should answer these questions. What's the purpose of the collection? Which audience is being served? What are collecting priorities, whether it's subject, format, geographical? What are the limitations of the collection? The commitment of the library to being involved in resource sharing, and probably one of the most difficult is how and when are items removed from the collection. Now, there is an element of the overarching organization's mission statement that should be involved in the collection development policy because it supports the overall organization. Probably one of the best examples of this would be the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, which has a goal of attracting and retaining African American students and faculty. Now, as information professionals, we need to understand how a library collection can help the university attain that goal. Now, why a written policy? A written policy has several assets, and it should be written in plain English so that it's easy to understand and encourages people to read it and even reread it as needed. It should encourage self-examination and reflection. Written policies are easy to distribute or exchange, or even change, because you're able to pull out the old copy online or paper and replace it with the new version so that it's updated. They can be easily interpreted or analyzed for training. There's also the fact that since everyone has access to it, that the message stays consistent and that it's constantly updated so that people are aware of those changes, so you don't wind up with a lot of unwritten or informal policies. And also a commitment of support to intellectual freedom or also resource sharing.